Hi, Max Headroom here with... This is my guest.
The year was 1985, and life in America couldn't be better. We've got new Coke, McPizza, an ongoing crack epidemic that the government caused in order to fund anti-communist groups in Nicaragua, and the NES. What more could you ask for? Well, I'm glad you asked, because hello people, I'm Tommy, and just 1 year later, we would be graced with the start of a video game series that would redefine the industry as we know it. And the name of that game was Steroid. Metroid was developed in 1986 by Nintendo R&D 1. They are the people responsible for the original Mario Bros. Arcade game, the Game Boy, and of course, the Virtual Boy. So you can really see that these guys follow the philosophy of the slow burn. The game was also developed by famous studio Intelligent Systems, a developer that I rarely bring up, but their three best games are Donkey Kong 3, Baseball, and Save the Series. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm still serious on overcoming my Nintendo fanitis of not finishing a Metroid game, so instead of going online and choosing what the best game to play is, we'll be starting from the very beginning. So this is Metroid 1, and get a good look at these graphics, because the kids who played this back in the day must be in the retirement home by now. So in the modern day, the NES library is not one of the most remembered when it comes to quality, and due to multiple factors, the biggest one being that I wouldn't be alive for another 17 years, I didn't get to experience Metroid in its heyday. Putting it with the standards we have now, Metroid has definitely got some bits and pieces of it that's aged. Comparing it to the rest of the NES library, however, it's no Mario 3 or Punch-Out, but my god, it's the closest any other game's gotten. Metroid is all about non-linear progression, exploring a giant map while finding upgrades, better weapons, and more health. The story goes that you play as a bounty hunter named Samus, and you are hired by the Galaxy Federal Police to go down to Planet Zebeth, defeat the Metroids, and destroy Mother Brain. Yes, the title of the series is named after a bad guy, and that's like if they called Mario Super Bowser Bros, or Zelda The Legend of Ganon, or if they called Fire Emblem International Humanitarian Law. The main goal of the game is just to get yourself built up as much as you can, fight the two bosses in the game, Kraid and Ridley, and make it down to Mother Brain's lair, blow her up with some missiles, and the first destruction timer ending occurs, where Samus must escape Planet Zebeth before its destruction. And then we reach what is probably the most famous moment in Metroid 1. Depending on how long it takes you to finish the game, the end screen will be different. If it took you over 10 hours to beat, Samus turns around and laughs at you. 5 to 10 hours gives you Samus staring at you. 3 to 5 hours is when Samus takes the helmet off. 1 to 3 hours as Samus takes off the whole armor set, and the best ending if you beat the game in under an hour, woman. So that's the big reveal, you've been playing as a woman this whole time, which was quite the revolution to McPizza eaters in the 1980s. And that's Metroid 1. I had a much better time with this game than I thought. I really expected it to be hindered by NES-era garbage like cheap deaths and annoyingly confusing map layouts. And although I will admit I got lost in the game a couple times, I was still able to uncover some mysteries on my own. There are very few NES games I ever go back to, but I don't think this will be the last time I touch Metroid 1. It's a milestone in video game history, and it's aged very well compared to the other 99% of NES games. But let's jump over to that handheld that the Metroid developers made, because that's where Metroid would get its sequel. Oh yeah, and before we get into this, I played this game on the Nintendo Switch Online, and I didn't know until right after finishing it that you could change the filter. So I wholeheartedly apologize for the gameplay that has the color palette of a public restroom. So, Metroid II: The Return of Samus on the Game Boy is not that good. Metroid 2 takes place after the events of the first game, where Samus ends up on the Metroid homeworld of SR3-88, where she must eradicate every last Metroid. Due to the hardware limitations of the Game Boy, the labyrinth style of Metroid 1 is here, but it's toned down to be a bit more linear. And the bottom right corner of your screen shows how many Metroid you must kill. And that's about it. As Samus pushes forward, she fights different Metroids that get progressively more powerful, and in this game, the missiles will be your best friends as they are going to be your main weapon for dealing with these guys. This game does convey a level of anxiety with the level design, as Metroids could be lurking from any corner of this 2D game, But the real anxiety of this game is running low on missiles and fearing you'll have to backtrack. But luckily the game has missile and health regen areas in quite abundance. After you kill most of the Metroids, you enter the lair of the Queen Metroid, and after freezing and killing some more of these floaty fucks and blowing up the Queen, Samus returns to her ship after a job well done. But right before that, she stumbles upon a Metroid egg that hatches, and the baby Metroid becomes attached to Samus as if she were its mother. And then the two calmly walk off and leave SR388 with no intense destruction. I don't like this game nearly as much as I liked Metroid 1, but I do love this ending a lot. It adds a fun bit of story, and I do know that this isn't the last we see of the baby Metroid, so I can't wait to see my happy little alien baby not get absolutely fucking obliterated in the next game. Credits roll, and once again there are different endings based on how fast you beat the game. 7 hours or longer and Samus stares at you in disappointment, 5 to 7 hours and Samus runs in the credits, 3 to 5 hours and Samus also runs in the credits but does a sick jump at the end, and the ending I got with a whole 2 minutes to spare. If you beat the game in less than 3 hours, Samus once again takes her armor off. In conclusion, the early years of Metroid was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I assume these games would have aged terribly, but Metroid 1 was quite fun. And although Metroid 2 had a lot of problems and I'm not the biggest fan of it, I'm still glad to have experienced it. And once again, I just love that quiet departure from SR388 with the baby Metroid. All in all, I'm quite optimistic about the future of Metroid, especially since the third game is considered one of the greatest games of all time. In conclusion, the 1980s fucking rocked, and Metroid 1 was certainly a reason for that. But now, it's time to talk about the very best thing the 80s gave us. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any cocaine, so we have to snort pretzel salt instead. Oh my god, oh my god! Oh, that's awful. Oh, that is terrible. Oh, that... Oh my god.